Good evening. Welcome to the John Gaunt Show. Tonight, I'm not going to criticise politicians necessarily. I'm going to criticise me and you because I'm asking a question. When did we, Britain, Great Britain, lose our balls? We used to be lions. We're now pussies. Do you agree? In the next half hour, I'll show you why I've come to this conclusion. I almost got depressed about it. Then I thought, no, I know what the solution is. So the question tonight, when did Britain lose its balls? Because we haven't got them anymore, have we? Because we are the country, let's never forget this, that fought 2 world wars and won them. And we won a World Cup. We didn't roll over. We didn't apologise. And we didn't outsource our survival, bringing in other people to run the country for us. We stood alone when the rest of mainland Europe folded. And guess what? We won. We won. Let me just remind you, we won 2 world wars. Now we've got rubber dinghies landing on the beaches of Dover almost by the hour. And we're told there's nothing we can do about it because lawyers decide whether it's legal. NGOs make decisions and the courts, the European courts normally decide. Everyone decides except us, the British public. And do you know what the problem is? We're almost accepting this. Came to me overnight. We could stop the boats tomorrow if we put even more pressure onto our politicians. Look what's just happened today, or with the farmers. A massive U-turn because the farmers said, up yours, Sir Keir. Look what's happening today. It looks like Labour are going to U-turn on the pubs, and rightly so. So we can change things. Why don't we? Why aren't we getting angrier? Why aren't we getting more organised? If the farmers could organise, why can't we as the public, the whole nation? Why aren't there mass demonstrations? Why aren't there strikes? Why aren't there people saying we're not going to take any more of this? Do you understand where I'm coming from? And in the end, you've got to blame yourselves, haven't you? We've all lost our balls. Why? A nation that never allowed Hitler to get on our beaches, apart from in Dad's army, has now letting everybody in. The ding-dong, the dinky, the dingy even, flip-flop warriors. Think it through just for a minute. How has Britain gone from ruling the world effectively to this liberal, uber-liberal establishment that none of us actually voted for? We've got a situation now where our kids are being taught to be embarrassed about things, not what to be proud of. So they're taught that our history, the empire, slavery, you know the script, it's all bad. It's all evil. We should be ashamed of it. Pass me the horsehair shirt and I'll whip myself. How have we allowed this to happen? We've got leaders, not just Starmer, but right across the political spectrum, who are ashamed of our past. Don't believe me? Well, look at the political establishment's reaction to the flags that have gone up. They don't like it. They don't allow us on their TV programs, as particularly the BBC, because our views, our viewpoint doesn't fit in. Look at the way they're not talking about Iran. At the moment, there's a revolution going on there, and the Islamist fascist mullahs are going to be chased out of the country, if not killed. Have the BBC talked about it? Hardly, not at all. Why? Because it doesn't fulfill their narrative of the multicultural, diverse world they want to create. That's an extreme Islamist state that is failing. So they're not going to show you it. Mind you, when it was, and the excuse is, oh, it's hard to get in there with cameras. Well, they used that, didn't they? Tried to use that excuse in Gaza, but they still managed to completely slag off the West and Israel and Jewish people. It doesn't add up, does it? So those leaders are ashamed of our past, our history, our culture, our traditions. That's why you end up with Christmas trees being called evergreen trees. That's why you end up with festivals of Winterville. That's why you have season's greetings on Christmas cards. They're ashamed of our background. It's almost got to a point now where we celebrate other religions, and I use the word here advisedly, alien religions to our basic country, i.e. Diwali, i.e. Eid, and the Muslim festivals. We seem to almost celebrate that more. I just remember when I first went to BBC London, I was listening to the drive time show. I was doing mid-morning or something, and I heard them say what time the sun would set. And I found that a bit odd. So I plucked up the courage and asked somebody and said, why are we telling them what time the sun sets? Eid, it's Ramadan or whatever it was. I said, what do you mean it's Ramadan? Well, a lot of our audience at BBC London, which was bullshit, none of them were really, but are Muslim. So we're telling them. What a load of garbage. That's how we've ended up with people having the call to prayer. I don't object to that at all if I go to a Muslim country, but I don't want it in this country because we're not a Muslim country. Fit in or ship out is my kind of philosophy. But why have we allowed this to happen? Why are we allowing our teachers and our schools to tell our kids they should be ashamed? Why aren't we instilling in them pride? Why are we still enthralled to the foreign courts? We've left the EU. But Starmer won't do anything about the boat, just like Rishi didn't do anything. Why? We don't have to care. I showed you about Hungary the other day. Denmark, the same. Poland, the same. Hungary have stopped the illegal immigrants coming in. They only had 1,000 try last year. We're getting 1,000 a day. It can happen. We can stop it. We don't have to listen to the foreign courts. We don't have to listen to Brussels or supranational bodies. And all this ideological nonsense. You can call it woke culture. You can call it cultural Marxism. Where's all that come from? And why have we accepted it? And why have we accepted the biggest lie ever? Diversity is our strength. And if we dare to say, well, I don't actually think it is, we're called racist. That's not a racist statement. I actually think a country needs borders, it needs traditions, it needs ties that bind us. And people who come to live with us and work here and contribute, they add to that. But you can't just dismiss it. That's how we end up with separate lives. That's how you end up with the police in Birmingham. And he should have been sacked by now, and the other three muppets with him. The Chief Constable of the West Midlands deciding, even though the threat was coming from Islamists, to blame Jews. This is just nonsense. Were you ever asked about it? Why are we teaching our kids to be embarrassed about our past, our history? Why don't we teach them what to be proud of? Why do we rename our own traditions? Downplay our own festivals? Christmas being the best example. It's just turned into a commercial festival, hasn't it? We have the German markets. It's just garbage. We bend over backwards for everyone else and we pretend it's progress. And going back to diversity, I'm all for people coming in and managed, well-controlled immigration. It's added to the colour, I use that word advisedly, of the country. But I'm not into people living separate lives in ghettos. I'm not. I'm against it. I'm particularly against it when we let people in who want to kill us or kill our kids at pop concerts. Can I remind you about Manchester? It's ludicrous. But you and I have got to take some responsibility about this, because this isn't progress. Because as far as I can see, this is us going backwards. We've let in religions that go against all of our idea of a liberal Western democracy. And most people are embarrassed to say it. Well, I'm not. Because in this great country of ours, it is legal and legitimate to criticise religion. All religions. Free speech doesn't stop at the church door, and it certainly shouldn't stop at the mosque door. But of course it does when it comes to the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police. Diversity is not our strength. Let's look at the Metropolitan Police. They wanted to get more ethnics into the police. A good thing. Yeah, you need a mixture of people. I agree. But they lowered the standards. This is the Tories' fault. I remember when Theresa May cut 20,000 police jobs. But then, when Boris was in, he wanted them back. So they basically employed anybody. Anybody. All the criteria went out the window. And then we get an idea where a guy who had been accused of rape of children was allowed in because of diversity. Fair play to the Met now. They're trying to clean out their house and say, look, we would never do this again. But I think it puts the leader of the Met in a very difficult position. In fact, the same position as that buffoon who runs the West Midlands. Who decided that we wanted the police force to be a service? That we wanted them to be nice and pleasant and wear rainbow laces and go skateboarding with those idiots who want to stop oil on Tower Bridge? We never got asked, but it's happened. So this broadcast, I'm not trying to stir up hate. I'm trying to say, how have we allowed this? Why are we now allowing Starmer to say, effectively, I can't stop the boats? It's like today with the U-turn on pubs. They're only doing that because they're worried about what Kemi Badenoch said. She says, if she got into power, she wouldn't charge them business rates. I don't know how she'd fund that, but that's what she's saying. And I know for a fact, Reform have got some big plans for the pubs. So now the Tories say, we're going to bring in new plans for you, but not until 2029. I mean, Starmer's an idiot. How he ever thinks anyone's going to buy that as an idea, because they're not. Are they? They're just not. And so this thing about diversity, when I look at what's happening in the Met, when I look what happened at Villa Park, and when I look at people like the Jews and the way they're treated terribly compared to the Muslims, or then when I look at Hindus and Sikhs, they're mixing in, and the majority of Muslims are. It's the Islamists amongst them. Why can't we say no? I see Denmark's today has said, sorry, we're going to boot you out of our country because you hate us. Well, that should be the same. All of those marchers who want to get free Palestine, off you go then. We shouldn't have them in our country. Diversity was supposed to mean different people living under the shared rules. Well, I'll go further. It should be diversity, different sorts of people living under the rules of the country, the traditions, as always. That doesn't mean you can't be a Muslim, a Hindu, a Sikh, a Jew. Of course it doesn't. But it means your loyalty, your first loyalty, has to be to our country and our flag. But what diversity has turned into, it's a way of suppressing our ways that have been there for years and tiptoeing around values that we threw into the dustbin of history generations ago. Homosexuality, transsexuality, women's rights. I'm sorry, I want to live in a society where if you are a woman, you have equality. You don't have to go dressed like a Dalek from 500 years ago. Do you understand what I mean? Because at the moment, if an idea clashes with a liberal democracy, it gets challenged. That's how it's meant to be. The newspapers, the internet, the rest of it. It's how our country is meant to work, or it used to be. But the diversity mob, who are now infiltrated every organisation in the country, they don't allow that. Because if you say anything that is slightly, and I use the term advisedly, off colour, they will attack you. Not just attack you, they will cancel you. We are no longer lions. We are pussies. Because we've rolled over and allowed these people to get away with this. We have been managed, shamed, and bullied into becoming something much weaker, something afraid of its own shadow. We are a worse country because of diversity. This is a great country. That's why every Tom, Dick, and Abdul wants to come here. That's why they're getting in the dinghies. Because Britain is, even after all this, still a great country. But I'm afraid we're becoming afraid of our own shadow. So this question isn't extreme. It's bloody overdue. When did Britain lose its balls? And why are so few people willing to say that out loud? If you know the answer, please tell me. My name's John Gaunt. This is the John Gaunt Podcast. You won't hear this anywhere else. They'll just be today talking about pubs and they'll be pretending it's all going to be okay. He's conning us again. But I want us to take on board today that some of this is our own fault. Why have we accepted it? Why can't we just be tolerant and say, yeah, of course you can come and live here, keep your religion or whatever, but it's never going to be above the religion, not the religion, the culture of the main settled community. It's never going to happen. Forget about it now. If that's what you want and you want to live in a separate ghetto, fuck off. Go back to Sudan. Go back to Somalia. And then the cheek of it, some of these people are getting in and they shouldn't even be here. It all adds up when you start thinking about it. And that's why I'm saying it's not just Sir Keir. It goes right back to Blair. How have we gone back? How have we gone from the land of Winston Churchill, this country will never be conquered, to where we are now? Does anybody know? Do you have a theory? Share it with me now. This is the John Gaunt Show. If you like what I'm saying, please press the like button. That's doing well so far. Or, indeed, if you fancy donating, just click the little $sign and donate as much as you can to keep these podcasts going. Because I think I'm trying to make you think. This isn't shock jockery. This isn't talk radio. This is real conversation. The conversations we should be having, which the BBC and the lamestream media don't want you to have. They don't want your voices on their programs unless they can manipulate them. They manipulated the voice and the views of the most powerful man in the world, Donald Trump. You don't think they'll do that to you when you go on the Jeremy Wine show? Of course they will. So if you want real free speech, this is where it is. And I want us just to stop blaming necessarily Starmer. It's the whole lot of the political class. But when are we, the real British people, going to get our pitchforks, metaphorically speaking, and stand up against all of this bullshit? So if you want to donate, please do. www.buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt. Oh, this is going to be some show, let me tell you. Let's go straight to your comments. Billy No Mate 1606 on YouTube says, early 1950s, the government puppet masters started the rot. It's a bit too late now to stop it. No! That's exactly what's got us in this position. Don't give up. Don't let them win. Sorry, I'm having a go in. I shouldn't, Billy. The writing on the wall was on the walls back in the 70s, but everyone turned a blind eye to it. Yes, they did, Billy, and that's my point. We're all guilty. I've been on the identity courses with the BBC But Billy, we've now got to say, enough is enough. Are you with me or against me? Come on, let's have your opinions. Don't be defeatist. That's what I'm trying to say. No more like France, as in strikes, blockade, etc. Nigel Gordon, you're right. The French, if they get a little bit peed off about anything, they're sinking boats. They're burning sheep. Aren't they? They are. They're squirting manure all over the bloody not the Winter Palace, that's St. Petersburg. Well, you understand where I'm coming from. All over government buildings. The French won't take this. The Spanish won't take it. Why are we? And why have we now got countries right across Europe, Denmark, Poland, Spain, Portugal are getting tough on this as well, saying, no, we're not going to let all these people in. I don't care about your EU bloody directive. We're not doing it. We don't want to live in this kind of mishmash, multicultural, diverse, homogenous world. We don't want that. We're Spanish. We're Danish. We're Greeks. Even the Greeks have stopped it. What are we doing? We're just saying, come on in. And what are we, the British public, doing? Are we standing up to Starmer? No. And so today, more bread and circuses. I'm going to do a U-turn. I'm going to look after the publicans. No, he's sodding not. And it wouldn't be enough even if he was. Where's the money coming from? Because he's still spending billions on money in our money in Ukraine. Why? He's still sending billions abroad. He's still sending money out on foreign aid, even though he cut it. We never voted for any of this crap. Why aren't we getting angrier or seeing how this all joins up? And why can't you just say, listen, I'm English. I do want to wrap myself in the flag. I don't think that's been a flag shagger. I'm proud of our background. I'm proud of our culture. I'm proud of what we've done as a nation. I liked it when the whole world was pink. And when you go to the places like India, you know, the Indians, they don't hate the British. They're proud of what the British did. And when you go, you see the magnificent buildings. I'm not saying it was all marvellous, but I'd like our kids to think about what we achieved, what their ancestors achieved. Wouldn't you? Why aren't we making our voices heard? I can't believe how weak and pathetic most Brits seem to be now, says Gusty Loyal. We saw it during the COVID nonsense, when people did everything they were told, despite most of it being idiotic. No surrender. Well, I partly agree with you. I don't totally, because there was a collective responsibility during COVID. But I'm not going to get into a COVID argument. But I take on board what you're saying. Thank you for it. It was the USA that saved the whole of Europe, and it looks like we need them again. May God be with the Orange Man. Yeah, but careful with that, Liam. Undoubtedly, without the help of the Americans, we would have had trouble, but also without the help of the Russians. Don't forget how many Russians lost their lives. But it was about our resilience. It was about that moment. Who do you think you are kidding, Mr. Hitler? If you think we're on the run, dum-dum-dum-dum-dum. We are the boys that will stop your little game. We are the boys that'll make you think again. It was a comedy, but it's true. It was British grit that stopped Hitler conquering Britain. It was British grit, obviously helped and by other people and the Commonwealth as well. Don't underplay that. But it was about our attitude. We were not going to be conquered. Just wasn't going to happen. Leanne Teal then says, F the BBC, F Sky News. I don't really know what that's about, but thank you for saying it. I'm in the upper Midwest of the States, and this seems to be worldwide. I'm sending best wishes to our blood family across the pond, says Pam Forrester 844. Well, it has happened all around the world. You're right. Western democracies have somehow allowed themselves to be cowed. Cowed? Is that cowed? That's the word, isn't it? By all of this cultural diversity nonsense. Be proud of what you are. And I think that's what Trump's doing, isn't it? He's saying, I'm for America. America first. I'm going to make America great again. What's wrong with that? But he is getting criticised for it. And it's ludicrous. And then we've got Starmer. But like I say, easy just to attack Starmer. Starmer is the jellyfish. He's spineless. And he bends with the wind. Look at this. 10 U-turns he's now done if he does the pub one as well. But will it change? No, because the central direction of travel, choo-choo, is to get back on the Brussels, the EU gravy train. I know you're enjoying it because I can see how many people are watching. How about donating something? Or do you think I should just be doing this for my own pleasure? Come on, I've thought long and hard about this. How about making a donation? Click on the $ and send whatever you can afford. Or please go to www.buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt. It's great that we're getting more and more American listeners or watchers. So, Pam, nice to have you on board, my friend. Britain never lost its balls, says David KT. We've been castrated. Yeah, but no one held us down, did they, Dave? It's almost as if we've chopped our own balls off. We've allowed them to do it. And not just Labour, the Tories as well. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. Like London. Do you really think London's a better city now than it was before? No. And I tell you something as well. Birmingham. The police in Birmingham are in hock to the Muslim Islamist fanatics, as proved. Why hasn't Starmer sacked him? He's not going to resign because he's after his pension. Sack the useless bastard. Our capital city, so our two biggest cities, have they been captured by the Islamists, the extremists? Do you see what I'm trying to say? But we all have a responsibility. My hearing aid's falling out. I must be onto something. The great Winston Churchill must be turning in his grave. Well, maybe. Who we got next? Real Kamashi. England lost its balls with John Major. I don't think John Major had any balls. I mean, how did we ever elect him? The grey man, the man who tucks his shirt into his underpants. The only interesting thing about him is he was shagging Edwina Curry. I know. I don't know who I felt sorry for the most, Major or her. But anyway, ludicrous. When it lost being Britain, 1972, joining the EEC, the EU, and then Blair in 1987 finished Britain off. Yes, but did we allow him to? You see what I mean? I'm trying to make you think about your part in this because that's what I think's interesting. But I take on board what you say about the EU. Badenoch will say anything whilst in opposition. That would not matter if they were in government, says Den Spinks. Yeah, but, you know, Den, I think we've gone past tribal warfare amongst Labour and the Tories. I'm trying to ask, why are we, the British public, the lions, why are we now such pussies? And we let them get away with it. Why? The farmers aren't. The publicans aren't. I mean, the publicans are going to go on strike. They were going to close all the pubs, says Starmer. But the thing that's really changed Starmer's mind, he knows Reform have got plans. He knows that Kemi Badenoch played a blinder by getting on the front page of the Daily Telegraph today. So now he thinks about a U-turn. He should never have been in government to make these ridiculous decisions. He doesn't live on our planet. He lives on planet Zanussi or something, doesn't he? What's next? The Bristol Channel. Reform are going to mug you all off and become an Islamic party soon. Nigel's fooled you. Grow up, you moron. That's just a ridiculous thing to say. Starmer's U-turn on the pubs. What a surprise. Him and that useless Rachel from accounts. Save our pubs. Unfortunately, it's all too late. Terry, I think you make a really good point. And by the way, thank you for your donations. I tell you what I do think, Terry, about that. I was lying in bed last night. This is how interesting I am. Thinking, well, why do we want to save the pubs? Can't afford to go to them anymore. Anyway, what difference would a rate cut do? The amount of help they need to make a real difference is huge. Plus, of course, it's the cultural thing that they've changed. You know, you used to go after work and have a couple of beers on your way home. Now with drink driving, they're going to try and cut drink driving down to less than a pint. I'm not in favour of drink driving, by the way, but it's just another attack. The simple facts are they don't want us congregating in pubs, slagging off Keir Starmer. They don't want that. Next thing is they'll close down the churches. They don't even like the growth of Christianity. The fact that a lot of younger people are looking to it, a bit, I think, influenced by what's happening in the States. It's not for me because, as you know, I'm not religious. I think all of it's gobbledygook and nonsense, which is why I say we must fight to protect our freedom of speech. I should be allowed to say the Quran is rubbish, the Bible is rubbish. I don't think I should be allowed to burn them books because that's just horrible and distasteful. There's no need for it. But I don't see why we should show any respect. We should be tolerant, of course, to all religions. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm almost glad my World War II veteran father is gone and not here to see the world today. You make a great point, Pam. What would they say, those heroes, those British heroes, those American heroes, those Canadian, Australian, Pakistani? Well, they weren't Pakistan, it was India, wasn't it? Why? What would they say? What did they fight for? What did they fight for? I've got to be careful how I say this, but say Hitler had won, at least we'd know what our culture was. It's not right. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want him to. He was a fascist bastard, and I'm glad we beat him. But do you understand the logic of where that's coming from? Some nations have not allowed this nonsense to take over. Look at Scotland, proudly Celtic. Look at the Republic of Ireland. They're desperate. Even now, though, they're being bombarded with migrants who know nothing about their country. It's unsustainable what these idiots are doing. But the problem is we can rant and rave about them. We've allowed them to do it. Yamofo 717. I know the USA lost its balls during Biden. You just need a better leader, I think. That might be a fair point. But why have we lost it? You're right. Trump is saying to America, come on, we can change this. And that's what he's trying to do. Have we got a leader who'll do that here? Maybe Nigel Farage. That's the angle, isn't it? Because he is going to win. But we've got a government at the moment, and we're allowing this as well. Starmer is cancelling elections. Connect the dots. Because he knows in May he's going to get slaughtered. Even though he's cancelled loads of the council elections, he's still going to get hammered. Imagine if all the elections were going forward. And then this man has the temerity to go on the top politics show on the BBC and say, no, I'll still be here. I'm not going anywhere. This is going to be the year it turns round. That fucking super tanker that the Yanks are chasing in the Atlantic, that can turn around quicker than our economy or our country or our pride under Starmer and Labour. It's true. Did I ever tell you, my Uncle Jack, he was a super tanker skipper. He had, I think, the second or third biggest ship in the world at one point. And he told me it took 8 miles to turn this thing round, right? Or to stop it. I would have thought they had better brakes. That's a joke. He got into loads of trouble because he was a bit of a, well, he wasn't a bit of, he was an alcoholic. He went to bed one night, left the first mate in charge. He crashed the super tanker, right? So because my Uncle Jack was the captain, he had to take, now this is a different world. He had to take full responsibility and he got sacked. This guy was one of the most experienced sailors you could have ever met. So he had to go and then start literally, people think I make this bit up, take coal to Newcastle and back. So he got on a little ship going up the East Coast. That's what, and how my Uncle Jack ended up. But he earned bucket loads of money. Bucket loads when he was a super tanker skipper. Right? He came from a Navy background. He died of alcoholism as well. I used to love him. He used to take me to, he was the bloke who introduced me to oysters. Because obviously he had the best food ever. You know, when you go on those, you do know it's like 5-star if you're the captain and the crew. There's only about 28 of them on these boats. And I said to him one day, hey, how do you get around the deck? They had bikes to cycle around the deck. And as a boy, when I was living in Hull with my Auntie Rosemary, My Uncle Jack's Tales of Sea were just amazing. And he had a face like Richard Burton, pockmarked and he'd obviously been in loads of scraps, big red nose because he drank too much. But anyway, one of my best memories of Uncle Jack was he used to take me to the greyhound racing. We go to the greyhound race and he'd say, "Don't tell your Auntie Thel." And then he'd give me like maybe 100 quid or 20 quid. It seemed like loads of money. I was just a kid. He said, "You go and put some bets on as well. Tell them Jack sent you." And then we'd be there. And some weeks he'd win bucket loads of money. Other weeks he wouldn't lose anything. And then he wouldn't win anything. And then he'd say, "You get back off to your Auntie Rosemary's." And then wouldn't see him. He'd go off on a bender down the Dockers Club in Hull for like weeks. It's like some of the fishing blokes, when they had a trawler trade there, the trawlers would come in, they'd all get weighed in, because they'd weigh the fish and then get the money, and the captain would spread out the money, the skipper, and then it'd all go to the club and get pissed up and then go home like 3 days later. It was a completely different culture, right? But going back to my Uncle Jack, he took responsibility. That never happens now. Like this chief constable, he's been found out to be a lying, corrupt Islamist sympathiser, in my words. Sue me if you fancy. Why hasn't he resigned? Because he wants the bloody pension. That's why. You got a view? I want to hear from you. Real, we've got loads of people. Real Kamashi should have to pay income tax before you can get any benefits. Not paid in, not entitled. Oh, I agree with that. Yeah, but unfortunately, politicians sold votes via welfare, and that's a tough machine to fight. You're absolutely right. Same in America, same here. Good points. Thank you for it. Progression within politics and the wider establishment is conditional now on an unquestioning loyalty and obedience to the prescribed doctrine, a stratagem that has infiltrated society since 1945, and that's John Stead is number one. He was a new listener yesterday. John, that's a brilliant point. You're right. You can't get on in the police if you haven't done the common purpose course. You can't. And then we've got the College of Policing who tells you how to police. My old man was a constable, not a chief constable, just a normal constable. He thought his job was just to nick bad uns, sometimes give a few of them a slap as well. That's the way it was. But you're right, John. That's John? Yeah, John Stead. Anybody want to contribute? Come on. First one's going to get a real big name check. All right, John, first time texting in. Just want to say that there's English patriots on the beaches in France trying to stop them from coming over here. Good show, John. Thank you. David Bailey, yeah, I know where you're coming from, but can't totally condone that because that should be the SAS doing it. There is an argument, well, at least they're doing it. Difficult one. Trump is shaking up the whole world. You guys will be a domino effect and you will be okay. That's from one of our American cousins. Mutley, foreign fraud, more like. Oh, you mean foreign aid? Yeah. Thank you very much indeed, Mutley. No, that's not Mutley, is it? I don't know. What was the noise that Mutley made? My mate Graham Dudley, I went to school with him. We called him Mutley. I never know why, but we did. And he sometimes gets in touch with me on Facebook. I still want to call him Mutley now. I'm 60. Grow up, John. The age-old art of debate has been stifled, says Lovely Lamb Lunch. I like your name. I've lived for 52 summers, and in the old days, if you had beef with someone, you talked it out. If you think someone's points are unpalatable, you'd chat. Yeah, that is how it was. That's how it was when I was at university. We had massive rows. Wouldn't mean we weren't friends. That's all gone. We're all vanilla now, aren't we? You boil a frog by turning the heat up gradually, not by dropping it in hot water, so you never notice until it's fait accompli. Very good, John. You're right. I've heard that before. It seems now that the trend is to shut down any opinion that is different. If you mute opinions, though, they don't go away. They go underground, and they'll come back to bite. I absolutely agree with that, Lovely Lamb Lunch. I really do. I think you've hit the nail on the head. So how have we become pussies? Yes, people have been saying to me, oh, there'll be civil unrest soon. There'll be riots. There'll be a revolution. Will there? The people in Iran at the moment are involved in a revolution against the mad mullahs. Are we ever going to be like that? Have we got that backbone anymore? Has that been completely destroyed? Have we given in? Like I said earlier, we were lions. Well, certainly our ancestors were. But I think we're like pussies now. Rolled over, and you can tickle our tummy with a lukewarm pizza from Deliveroo, delivered by some illegal immigrant on a bike, or, you know, you can give us some cheap T-shirts from Primark. Where's our culture? Where's our tradition? Where's our quality? We're in this position, Jackie Ward says, because we're too compliant. The average Brit accepts authority too readily. We then admire the French when they stand up to their government. I don't know how we reverse this ridiculous situation, John. I am desperate for the answer. We do need an uprising. Cliff Dixon, he'll have some good thoughts. He's a clever bloke. He says, they call us flag shaggers, as you say. But what about the left wrapping themselves in Palestinian, EU, LGBTQ++ flags? It's okay when they do it. You make a good point. What I thought was amazing, Cliff, was how they got rid of all their Palestinian flags and have now got their Venezuelan ones. But they're a bit confused because most people in Venezuela are dead chuffed that Trump's got rid of the foul dictator and drug pusher. But I don't quite understand, even with the Palestinian ones, what were they fighting for? And what was this thing about free Palestine? I never got it explained to me what you had to do to get a free Palestine. Was it something like, you know, when you used to have to go to the garage and you got so many tokens, you got a Smurf or a pint glass? Do you remember those promotions? We were all mad for it, weren't we? Do you remember the Thunderbirds? Oh, I'm off on one now. Careful. Danger Island mid-morning radio show coming up. Do you remember Thunderbirds when we used to get them in packets of... what were they in the packets of? Kellogg's or something. I eventually ended up living next door to the guy who did that, and he said it was the most successful promotion, whichever cereal company who did it. And he said they had a position at one point where they were making more money on the plastic toys because you could then, after they got it going, if you were missing Thunderbird, I think it was Thunderbird 2, was it? Was that the green one with the came out? I can't remember. I'm talking about in the 60s. They relaunched it when my kids were little. But anyway, they made more money because people then could buy them. They made more money from that than from the actual cereal or whatever it is they were pushing. This is what he told me, and it was his idea. He big fat bloke he was. But he said it was incredible. People wanted the toy. It's like Happy Meals, isn't it? And by the way, Gaunt is right again. Do you remember when I was doing Simple as Fat and I talked about the whole food pyramid triangle and I said it was upside down? That actually what you should do is eat protein, high-fat animal foods, obviously greens, but you should stay away from carbohydrates and ultra-processed food. Have you seen what Kennedy's just done overnight in the United States? This food pyramid, right? About what you're meant to eat to stay healthy. We still got it in this country. It's completely wrong, and it's basically what is giving everybody cancer. And now people are coming around to it and understanding it. He's upped it like that. He said, no, animal fats are good. Don't eat anything that says low fat, because low fat equals high sugar. And it's the sugar that's giving you cancer. And now Trump's government agree with it. I wonder if I could get a job. I don't know why I gave that up. I was going, well, I didn't get enough people doing it. That's why I gave it up. But I know a lot of people benefited from it. Do you like the haircut? No one's mentioned the haircut. I thought I'd have a few mentions about that. I've got to stop in a minute. Don't exclude the Green Party. They fund the left protests. That's been exposed in Dover. Are you sure it has? Are you sure they have? Because that's interesting if they have. Where are we going next? David KT. It's the Pied Piper who plays the tune, and we've all followed blindingly. I think that's a good fair point. Let's go to the next one. Terrible hiccups, I do apologise. I don't really know who to vote for in the next election. Labour, no. Conservative, no. Greens, no. Reform, no, unless they stop backing non-Christians. Libs, nope. So who's left? What do you mean backing non-Christians? Do you mean the Layla woman who's a Muslim or Zia. Isn't it good to have people like that in the party? I don't know why you'd be against that. Good. Leanne Taylor says, John, have you seen the Reform Councillor Leah Cunningham? She's brilliant. Yeah, I have. I think she is. But some people obviously object to it because she's a Muslim. Where am I going next? Maggie Morley. Starmer has only done this U-turn again because Reform are topping all the polls. Yes, of course. His ratings have... so I've not pressed the button, sorry. His ratings have gone to 11%. Too high, in my opinion. Yeah, that's his approval. But this won't change a thing on how people will vote. No, the absolute bottom line is he's gone. He's absolutely gone. Starmer could promise to give you all the money in the world, give your kids sweets forever. No one's going to vote for him. He's finished. Thank you, Maggie. Starmer is a would-be dictator. I don't think there's anything would-be about it. I think he is a dictator. Nice super tanker metaphor, says Lovely Lamb Lunch. Well, it's based on a true story. The people in the UK not standing up are Sail UK out. I haven't got a clue what that means. Write it again and try and put it in English if you possibly can. Some of you are just now talking to each other, which I'm sorry isn't the idea of the program, and it gets in the way because I can't then spot people who want to make a comment for everybody, right? Like this one. Part of the globalist takeover involves government to be shut down completely. Hence Starmer looking to put us back in the EU. Everything happening with the special guests is diversion. Thank you very much. Your uncle took you to the dogs, the greyhounds. Now we've all been taken to the dogs. You wouldn't? Is greyhound racing still allowed, or has it disappeared completely? Speedway. I used to take me to Speedway as well. Hull Vikings. I was a bees supporter when I lived in Coventry. Obviously, when I came back, I was. But I used to go to the Speedway with him as well. Brilliant. He'd gamble on that. Mind you, my Uncle Jack, if we were on a coach or something, he'd gamble on a raindrop coming down the window, which one would hit the bottom. He was just an absolute gambling addict and a drinking addict. Shame. Nice bloke. Interesting bloke. You don't get blokes like that anymore, do you? I mean, rough as old arsehole. I'm not allowed to say that word, am I? Common purpose are in everything now. They are, Stephen. You're right. Hi, John. One of my uncles died from the drink. He wasn't an alcoholic. Wasn't an alcoholic. He got run over by a Guinness lorry. Bum, bum. I like that. Thank you very much. Indeed. What's next? It lost its balls when Maggie Thatcher left number 10. Well, certainly she put our balls back on, didn't she? That's for sure. It's been bred into them now, John, at the university, wokeness. Yeah, but again, that's you pushing away the responsibility. I'm asking you to look at it yourself. I mean, I know when I worked for mainstream, particularly not just particularly the BBC, talk radio as well, they had their agendas and you couldn't go against those agendas. Well, you could, and then you get the sack. Like me, when I dared to say that bloke was a Nazi, a health Nazi, and then I called him a Nazi and an ignorant pig, he was. Because he was trying to tell me the reason why he didn't want children to be fostered by smokers was because he'd tested it on his counsellors and they all said, oh, yeah, let's ban smoking in the offices. But then he said, do you know what? They were still doing it. And I laughed my balls off because it was like, that's your justification. My Auntie Rosemary, who looked after me and saved my life, right? She was a matron in a hospital, old-fashioned style. She smoked like a bloody chimney. In fact, she smoked so much I thought I'd find Fred Dibner on her head. But she loved me. She cared for me. I remember when she picked me up from the children's home, she said, where's the rest of your bags? I had this little, I think do you remember Adidas bags? I had one of them. And Adidas holder. She says, haven't you got anything else? I said, no, that's it, Auntie Rosemary. So she just looked at my Uncle John, my Uncle John was a strong, silent type. He'd served in the war. He'd been a stoker. Right? He'd been all around the world, but not seen anything because he was always in the engine room shoving coal into the engines. He had the biggest nose. He had a bigger nose than Carl Howman. Was it Carl Howman? Who was the geezer on streets of San Francisco? You remember? Well, that was my Uncle John. Silent, never spoke. He took me out one day on a booze up with his works. He was a labourer. in the factory down the road. And we got absolutely pissed. Well, I had about 2 beers and I was drunk, you know what I mean? But he could drink like Christmas forever. He wasn't an alky though. But what a lovely bloke. But anyway, so I'm diverted. I'm what's the word? Anyway, she looked at me, Uncle John, and raised her eyebrows. All right. We got to Hull, and she gave me my bedroom and the rest of it. And she said, give me those clothes. I said, oh, no, I want to keep my leather jacket. I had a leather jacket like the Fonz. She said, you can keep that and your star jumper if that's that important. Do you remember star jumpers? Yellow with the ribs. It looked terrible on me because I was a fat kid. But anyway, then on Monday, she took me shopping. It would have been Sunday in the old days and the new days because the shops were open all the time. But she took me shopping in Hull. And she basically bought me whatever I wanted. Not that I want, you know what I mean? Knickers, socks, trousers, Oxford bags, a new pair of spoons. She loved me. She loved me. She saved me. She said, your mouth will get you sent to prison or make you a millionaire. Well, it nearly made me a millionaire, then I fucked it up. Sorry, Auntie Rosemary, but I haven't been to prison yet. Sorry, Annette Locke, let's go. We're putting all our eggs in one basket. Reform should be looking for plan B in case it never happens. Yeah. Do you remember the SO Garage football badges? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. My Uncle Brian, it's not my Uncle Brian, Lisa's Uncle Brian, lived in Kidderminster. He was in the oil industry. I've got an interesting background. And he did the promotions for Esso for when they started having glasses as well in shops. Do you remember? They were crap. I've still got some of them. We were deliberately mollycoddled for decades to weaken us. Entertainment and food on tap, thinking we're free and the next generations never knew difficulty, so grew up weak. All part of the plan. I don't know if it's part of the plan, but I think you make a fair point. Crystal goblet from Esso for every 600 quid spent. Yay! Where do I sign? We've got some people of my age, so thank you very much indeed. No one's donating. You're loving the show, but you're not donating any money, which is a bit tight. Which hair did you cut, John? Bum, says Andy Borg. I went down my local Turkish barbers today. 15 quid. I thought that was great value. And a rap of speed. No! I'm making that up. That's a joke. When Blair was in power and he changed a lot of laws, that's when it started. That's when we became pussies. Thank you. Blair ruined the country and he was crap on Give Us a Clue. Lovely lamb lunch. Don't ever slag off Lionel Blair in my company. Lionel Blair was a big fan of mine when I was on BBC London, and he actually also stood in for me when I went on holiday, which was, for me, was fantastic. I love Lionel Blair. Sadly not with us anymore. Best thing was he was in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in the West End. And he said, oh, Gaunty, he rang me up one day. He said, Gaunty, would your girls like to come and see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in the West End as my guests, top seats? I said, Lionel, that'd be lovely. Thank you very much. So we go off to the West End, right? And I think Bethany was a little bit scared by it all. Oh, no, I'll tell you when she was scared in a minute. But at one point, he's the child catcher. And he flew over the audience, right? And as he flew over our heads, he looked down and he shouted, hello, Gaunty girls. My daughters thought I was the bee's knees. We then went backstage. Bethany was a bit reluctant. She was only about 8 at the time, to go in the dressing room. And as we, in the end, I said, don't worry, it's Lionel. He's a friend of mine. He's just an actor. You know what kids are like. So we went in, and as we went in, he had his hand on his nose because he had this massive false nose being a child catcher. You know what it's like. And as we went in, he pulled it off like that. Oh, brilliant. What a man. What a talent as well. What a dancer. I used to love him with Una Stubbs. I've never met her, but Lionel Blair, a real gentleman. And what I liked about him was later in life, he didn't come out and he said, I've been a closet heterosexual. I think that's the same thing that George Melly. Do you remember George Melly, the jazz man? Oh, I promoted him as well. What a nice bloke. Hi, John. Remember the British Empire who took over a lot of countries by force? Yeah. We also gave a lot. But are we meant to be really upset about that? Oh, I saw your next comment, Frank, so we know where you're coming from with this comment. John, you got the sack more times than the coal man. Yeah, that's right. But you know what, Frank? To be a has-been, you've got to have been a bean in the first point. You might know something about that if you keep dreaming. They still have greyhound racing. Oh, come on. This is a net. They still have greyhound racing at Bellevue in Manchester. Oh, good stuff. I used to love it. Right, I've got to stop in a minute. I really have. Carl Malden, Streets of San Francisco, says Maggie Morley. Thank you very much indeed. Niven Casey has always got something interesting to say. One of the reasons the Liberals want us back in the EU is so they don't have to make any decisions. If the EU is making all the laws and rules, they can just ride the choo-choo gravy train. Thank you very much indeed. Oh, Frank Francis, he's obviously just discovered me today. Frank, calm down, love. Hi, John, spelt with an H. There's no H in my name. I remember you on LBC. You was a wind-up merchant. Well, that's remarkable if you remember me on there, because I've never been on LBC. I was on BBC London. I saved it. Who remembers Green Shield stamps? Says Stephen Hall. Yeah, no. I tell you what's worse than Green Shield stamps. There was the pink stamps. Do you remember them? Niven Casey also says a good point. And this is why we've got such poor MPs today. 50 years of outsourcing government has neutered them. Leon Tail says, hope it wasn't a cash-only Turkish barber. No, it wasn't. He's a Kurd anyway, but he's done really well, this barbershop. 74 quotes says, Turkish barber, yeah, right. No, I just said he was Kurdish, but an interesting guy. I don't know. Just because some of them are money launderers, or the majority, doesn't mean all of them are. Pam Millett says, I remember Green Shield stamps. I got everything I needed before I got married. Good on you, Pam. Right, I'm done. I'm absolutely done. Thank you very much for joining in. I think you enjoyed the show. Enjoyed it so much you couldn't get your hand in your pocket and give me a donation. You can still do it now before we finish if you fancy. Just click on the $ and send me whatever you can afford. I've done 57 minutes for you. I think that's pretty damn good. Also, if you want to do it on Buy Me a Coffee, go to www.buymeacoffee.com/John Gaunt. Oh, David KT says, I used to love the stock car racing at Brandon. Yeah, so did I. Yeah. Speedway was my thing, though, really. With my mate Brett. Jackie Ward, 3 love hearts. Thank you very much indeed. I can stop now. I've just also got to say to you, by the way, I wasn't going to do a show today. I was a bit down. Not depressed, but just down. Just, fuck, what's going on? And then I had this, when I was having my haircut, I had this idea about, well, why have we become pussies? And I think it's something I'm going to return to because it's interesting. But I've also enjoyed talking about my Uncle Jack. I'll tell you about my Uncle Jip one day. He's an even better story. He had the crucifixion scene tattooed on his back. All of it. All of it. And I'll tell you why next time I speak to you. Right. I'm finished now. Thank you for joining in. There isn't a show tomorrow, normally at 6. I'm going out tomorrow. I might do one in the daytime, depending on what happens. If not, I'll definitely be here Sunday afternoon about 2-ish. So stay tuned for that. The best way to know what I'm up to is if you join John Gaunt, John Gaunt TV on YouTube. And then a little pop-up comes up saying, do you want to subscribe? Don't worry, it doesn't cost anything. It just means you want to get on, so we know who you are, helps the algorithm and all the rest of it. And then you'll always know when I'm doing shows. Okay? So that's it. That's me done. I'm going to go down now. Lisa will be there. She'll say, that was rubbish. I said, what, were you listening at the door? She'll say, no, nobody's donated. I'm deeply in the shit. Thanks. Thanks for your support, guys. I'll see you next time. Until then, if you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug, and please don't forget to tell them you love them. See ya.